The last time I made a video about Shiba seeing a big crash, it was trading over here and then over here, and we ended up seeing some big nasty moves down afterwards. And unfortunately, I'm making another one while it's trading right here. And see, here's the deal. I want to break down for you why I think Shiba could be in for another drop, but I'm also going to tell you the positives of why it should still be able to rise. As you know, on this YouTube channel, I always give you all the information so that you can make your own conclusions, and then I tell you what my conclusions are as well, but I think it's fairly obvious. So here's the deal. Here's what I want you to keep in mind right here is that Shiba ended up having a very nice run up all the way up to its all-time high at 8,800 against the dollar here. I'm not going to read the number, but it's over here. And then we ended up seeing some really big drops. And the reason that we're seeing these drops is that the market just isn't interested in Shiba because of its technology or what's interesting about this coin in particular, but people were only buying it because its recent price action was bullish. And so people were buying it out of desperation to make a lot of money. What we see after that is that as soon as that buying pressure evaporates, there's nothing left. It's just BS. So people end up selling it off. And you guys know that that's how I ended up pulling a really big profit, nearly doubling my money trading a short position on Shiba as it dropped right here. And I'm looking at potentially doing the same thing again. And I want to break down for you exactly why. See, take a look at this. Shiba was actually trading in a bearish descending triangle that looked something a little bit. Let's actually go on a different chart real quick because I don't want to clutter this up too much. Shiba was trading in a bearish descending triangle that looked a little bit like this. Take a look at this. Hang on, let me draw this properly. Bam, just like that, with support around over here, essentially showing us that our resistance was getting lower and lower and lower, i.e. we were getting pushed lower and lower while we were holding the same floor. We bounced off this floor once, twice, thrice, 4, 5, and 6 times before eventually crumbling below. And when we fell below, it was a really big drop. Then again, we came back up to test this same level. We actually peaked a little bit higher and then fell right back down. And the reason that I think that's a really big deal is that the market had a chance to potentially recover back up to some very nice levels. Let me make this not so thick because this is a little bit distracting. The market managed to rise back up to this level but didn't quite manage to recover, which told us that while Shiba actually had some time to correct from this big run up, it still did not have enough strength to rally back up. And it has now been quite a long time for the crypto market and for Shiba just on its own to rise back up. We've now been waiting 9.5 days, but still with no results, still not recovering back up here. Those of you who remember the day I was live streaming Shiba's drop around over here, I was warning you guys that we probably will get a bounce back up and it's probably not going to break through, and that's exactly what happened. So thank you all very much for watching this channel if you managed to catch that, and if you didn't, it's probably because you're not subscribed. So make sure to do that, smash up the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on this content and you tell YouTube's algorithm that you want to see more of this content if you think it might be useful for you. But here's the deal is, because we ended up getting such a big drop here in that confirmation, I think that this market really has confirmed for us that it doesn't want to be strong and it doesn't want to be rising. And that puts us in a very tricky position because previously we ended up forming that descending triangle like I had just shown you a few minutes ago. But now we're actually forming another one that perhaps looks quite similar. Now you can see this quite clearly if I look at this on, for example, the daily time frame where, yes, I know that the line doesn't completely match up, but that's not really the point here. The point is that we're still getting the same trend of setting lower highs in this market, right? Take a look at this, and this becomes a little bit clearer if I do look at, for example, the 1 hour time frame. And I know that I am drawing this line right through some exceptions, but broadly speaking, we can see pretty clearly that we are respecting resistance along this red line right here, potentially indicating that we could be in a little bit of trouble. Since then, we managed to get a breakout. Take a look at this. We did actually manage to get a breakout, and we managed to come back down to find support here, but we didn't form a bounce off this level. And the reason that I think this is important is that while Shiba is forming potentially bullish signs right here, it got a confirmed breakout and it came back down to backtest this level. it still didn't have the strength to rally up. And I think, again, that puts it in a really, really tricky position, because the thing with coins like this that I really need you guys to understand right now, and really, you got to put your biases to the side right here. This is not going to serve you in these markets, and that's why I'm here to, you know, tell you these things and tell you these uncomfortable truths. That's what I do. Obviously, it means that I'm not popular. Obviously, it means that people don't like me for it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop telling the truth about these things. Is that if these coins don't manage to rise quickly, people just aren't going to be interested in them. And if people aren't interested in them, they're going to sell them. And that makes it very, very nasty, because you're not getting support for that selling pressure when the price starts dropping, because again, nobody cares about this coin beyond the speculative rise. I've given you the terrible analogy of this being the one fat girl in the club that nobody's interested in, but it's already 3 or 4 a.m. and you've ran out of options and you've drank all this alcohol and you're like, fuck it, I gotta take what I can get. That's what this coin is, right? And it's essentially, it's just as simple as this: is as soon as you sober up, you're just not interested anymore, and she gets dumped. And that's exactly what's happening to this market. Now, I know a lot of snowflakes have probably just been very offended by that, so now is your time to get the fuck off this channel, because this is going to hurt your feelings a lot more than that if you were upset by what I've just said over the past few minutes. But bringing it back to the analysis here, we're seeing the same thing happening over and over, where really we're getting that chance. She's really trying to impress you, but no one's getting her those cocktails. No one's buying her the drinks. She's feeling really, really terrible. She's gonna get dumped. That's how this kind of price action tends to move on these coins. And the primary problem with Shiba right here is that if you look at its price action previously, even on the logarithmic chart, there was a lot of trading that happened here. I'll read out the price levels. I know that you can't see it because of my webcam, but this was between 600 and 1,000 against the dollar. Again, it's a very small number. This isn't $600 and $1,000. It's a very small denomination of the dollar, which I'm not going to bother reading out. But it ended up trading within this big range for quite a long time, and then immediately rocket shipped up and immediately rocket shipped up again. And that's why we saw such a big drop, right? It's purely because on the way up, the market did not have a chance to establish any support. So we had to drop very, very far to find that support. And if we look at this and measure from the high to the low what the size of this dump was, we dropped by 51% right here on this Shiba price action within only 8 days. So it was a very short time to get such a big drop in this market, and it bottomed out exactly where we were expecting on this YouTube channel, right? If you take a look at Shiba with the lines that I had drawn, I was pointing out to you that right around here could be a support level, and Shiba overshot it just a little bit, but this actually was a line as well. For those of you who are watching my live stream, you'll know about this. This was also a potential area that I was looking to see Shiba reverse a little bit, so I was actually taking profits while it was below this level as well on my short position, because I entered my short on this. See, Shiba, what it managed to do right here was it dumped down out of this support and it came right back up, and it was on this retest that I entered my short position. And I had actually outlined this to VIP members the day before this happened. I told them that if Shiba rises up to around here or falls and then rises up to around here, both of these circles are potential entry points for me to sell this market and make some profits on the downside. And they saw exactly how I was doing that in real time. They got the information on how I was going to trade this before the move even happened, because I stay prepared for these kind of moves quite far in advance. And of course, they've also got tutorials on exactly how I'm implementing those trades. So if that sounds like a good deal to you, you want to continue to see how I'm trading these markets in real time moving forward now, instead of me telling you about what happened historically, then you can click on the first link in the description down below and then click on @4flies to send me a message. These 3 red boxes right here will take you to the steps to ask me how to join 4flies VIP, and it's very quick. You'll get all the information inside of 30 seconds if you follow these 3 steps on the screen right here, if that does sound interesting to you. But again, the primary problem that Shiba has right now, if we move it back to that, I think it was, what was it, KuCoin? We were using the KuCoin chart, my bad. If we move it back to this chart right now, is that you see Shiba, it ended up moving up very, very quickly and not establishing any good areas of support. And when we're in big crashes, we need good areas of support. So we didn't quite get that yet. But the primary issue that I'm seeing here is that the big area of support on this chart isn't even at this consolidation area. This is just where it paused for a little bit. It's mainly down here at that 1,000 level. And again, I mean, if we measure how much of a drop we're looking at just to get down there, it is Oh god. Pardon me. Sorry about that. That came very unexpected. It is an 81% correction for Shiba from our current prices, so it's going to be actually a little bit more from the all-time high to correct back down to that 1000 level. And unfortunately, this is just generally how these kind of shitcoins generally tend to perform, right? Again, people are only buying them if they're going to be rising, so if they're not rising for a long period of time like this, people will lose interest and they will start to look to sell off. And of course, there's not going to be any buying pressure coming back in because people don't buy assets like this if they're completely worthless. They only buy assets like this. Well, I mean, let me rephrase that. People only buy assets like this, which are completely worthless, if they think that they can make money in the short term. But of course, if it's dropping, people are not necessarily going to be feeling greedy enough to make that money in the short term. They're going to be looking to be a little bit more fearful. They're not going to try to be fearful, but they are going to be a little bit more fearful. And that, of course, leads to a lot of panic selling. And again, it's just a vicious cycle because nobody wants to buy the coin when it's selling off because there's no prospect of making money. And the reason that I think this is concerning now, and the reason I'm bringing it to your attention now, is that we formed these patterns already, telling us that this is kind of, the price action that Shiba likes to draw on the chart. With this descending triangle right here, this was quite an obvious, first segment of the market to drop back down. And I'm seeing another potentially very obvious little segment just now as well, which looks a little bit like this. So again, we are just breaking out of it right now, but with what strength, right? The market just isn't moving with any real strength, in my opinion. And so to me, this forms yet another bearish continuation pattern where we're essentially trading inside of this pennant, finding resistance and support inside of a consolidation zone, but we're doing that inside of a wider bear market. We're doing that inside of a wider market where the asset is really, really struggling. Now, of course, these things can easily pop to the upside as well, but the possibility of that is generally lower. We're looking at about a 33% chance to pop to the upside and a 66% chance to pop to the downside. And that's, again, purely because the market is already in a bearish trend. So it's generally going to gravitate towards continuing to move down. And of course, in any other market, this wouldn't really be a concerning thing, but we need to find good support. And good support, in my opinion, means where we've had a lot of consolidation. And I just don't think that chart has good support. That this chart has good support until and unless it drops quite far. Again, from our current price, that will put us down by a further 45%, but I've already outlined to you why I think this might even need to go significantly lower down to the next strong area of support, like very strong area, which again is now still an 80% drop lower. So that definitely makes it quite concerning. But let me tell you about why I might be wrong, because my job as an analyst is not just to confirm my own hypotheses and things like that. I need to question myself, and I need to acknowledge the possibility that I am going to be wrong. And one of the key things I want to outline to you is that while it is a complete and total shitcoin, a lot of people still have a lot of belief in it, and you get that belief when the wider market is very healthy, right? So right now, this wider market has been struggling quite a lot, right? Bitcoin hasn't been showing us huge signs of strength in this trend. And so I think a lot of people are potentially starting to lose some of their optimism. But if Bitcoin manages to continue to rally up, which of course I and probably you think is very likely, well then that optimism is going to return, and Shiba is one of the obvious candidates to pump again. The other thing to keep in mind is that from its all-time high to our current day, it's now been a grand total of 18 days, which is very, very long for a coin like this. The last consolidation, the last correction that Shiba coin had, it rallied up by 320%. Over here, it rallied up by 200%, so it had a smaller rally in this case. But after rallying up by 300%, it only needed 16 days to form a correction before pumping up massively. And in this case, we're already at a longer correction in terms of time, at a bigger correction in terms of price, and this is coming off a smaller pump. So this phenomena where we're seeing less aggressive price action, where the pumps are getting smaller, the corrections are getting bigger, and the corrections are taking longer, this generally happens to markets which are maturing. When you see a market maturing, you'll start to see them take longer to recover, and they'll pump less harder as well. I don't know if that makes sense. They won't pump as hard as well. I'll give you a great example. If we take a look at Bitcoin on a very, very long-term chart. Let me show you how Bitcoin performed just so we can really understand the characteristics of this, right? Again, this channel is all about putting out a realistic analysis, which you guys can actually apply in your real lives right here. You know, this is not where I'm just trying to, you know, open up a crystal ball and read my palms like a fortune teller and try and tell myself that I'm going to become rich, right? I'm looking for something a little bit more methodical and reasonable than that. But take a look at this right here. Bitcoin, let's say with this bear market right here, managed to top out at $264, and it then took a total of about 200 days for Bitcoin to reach and then exceed that same all-time high. Next time, we topped out at about $1,100, and it took Bitcoin a lot longer. It took Bitcoin about 1,240 days to reach and exceed that prior all-time high, 1,240. But the next time, it took Bitcoin even longer. I'm sorry, no, it didn't. It took Bitcoin 1,100 days, so my bad. I've just completely disproven myself. This bear market took longer to recover than this bear market. But we're definitely seeing it get shorter anyway, because the previous one was 200 and something days. The one before that was 600 days. And of course, the bear markets before, they were much, much shorter. I didn't even look at them. This was 60 days and this was 90 days, right? So you're getting the bear markets on the whole get shorter, right? To get longer. It's taking more and more time for these markets to recover on average because they're maturing. The next thing I want to show you, the other note that I made on that Shiba chart, is that they're pumping less hard. They're not pumping as hard. So take a look at this. From the low to the high, Bitcoin up by 600%. The next bull market up by 500%. The next bull market, very strong one, up by 5,000%. The next bear market, again, only measuring it from the low to the high, a very, very strong bull market. This one was up by 12,000%, but it starts getting much quieter now. From this low to this high, we're only up by 1,700%. From this low to this high, we're up by 9,000%. So this was, again, a very strong one because Bitcoin had corrected by so much, but now we're really not pumping by such huge numbers like what we were seeing before. We were seeing many thousands of percent before, and we're just not able to replicate those kind of highs. If we measure it from previous all-time highs to new all-time highs, it's an even more bleak picture. Up by 15% up by 1,500% over there, but now only up by 200%. Again, measuring it from all-time high to all-time high, you really start to see that trend right now. Take a look at this. Up by 700%, up by 300%, and then up by 1,800%. Again, this was a very big bull market, but now most recently we're really struggling and we're only up by 200%. All of this is to show you that markets mature and they generally, on average, will become a little bit more, how do I say, not passive, but a little bit more pacified, I guess. They're not going to be as explosive as they mature, and we're already seeing this with Shiba. Shiba had been was a very small coin before this big pump happened, but it really got a lot of attention here at the beginning of October, so it's already starting to act like a more matured asset. So in terms of the positive points for Shiba, you know, again, if this market becomes a little bit more optimistic, it's got what it needs to potentially start pumping back up again. What we are in right now with this Shiba chart, could just very well be a very big parallel channel correcting the trend, potentially getting ready for an explosive rise up. This, to me, would make total sense. It really would make a lot of sense for Shiba right now, but it only depends on if people are going to be interested in this, because again, the thing I really need you guys to remember right now is that people are only interested in coins like Shiba when they're going up. So this is going to require a really big pump at first to get people excited again. Is that possible? Absolutely, yes, it's very possible, but realistically, you might actually start to see some other coins popping off really nicely in the ways that Shiba was already. And that, I think, is very important to retain a realistic perspective. I definitely think it has a good shot at rising back up if and when optimism returns to the rest of the market. But just for right now, it is forming more bearish signs inside of a trend which is already bearish. And the thing that I really need you to keep in mind is that if this stuff gets bad, it has room to get really bad because it never had a chance to establish good support levels on the way up. Again, take a look at this. This is probably the single most important point I'm making on this YouTube video. Broadly speaking, if we zoom out to say the 4-hour time frame, which is not a very large time frame at all, we can start to see that Shiba with this leg up right here pretty much just goes up in a straight line. It does pause a handful of times, 3 times right here, but it only pauses for a total of maybe 20 hours and then it's back up again. Look, 16 hours right here, about 8 hours over here, and again about 8 to 12 hours right here, and then it's just pumping right back up. So broadly speaking, you can just draw one line to represent how strong the price action was, and it's pretty much the same thing on the next leg up as well. Shiba has risen very aggressively, and because it managed to rise up very aggressively without forming a time-based correction, trading sideways. Look, it did form a time-based correction right here, but it was a very short-term one. It only lasted a matter of 16 hours, like I measured earlier. Take a look at this, about 15 hours. Very short-term correction right here. So it didn't really get any long time-based corrections, and it also didn't get any big price-based corrections, right? From the low to the high, Shiba only managed to drop by 18%, which is not much when you consider that it pumped by 80%. So it didn't really retrace by very much. And again, we're seeing the same picture right here. Not retracing by much, only 20%, but this leg was a 64% leg. Again, same thing right here. This leg was a 52% leg, but it only retraced down by about 15%. So we're consistently seeing Shiba not correct massively, which means that when we're coming back down, there's nothing on the chart that we can really latch onto to expect support. It's in very direct contrast to Bitcoin, because if we take a look at what happens to Bitcoin right here on the daily time frame, and I show you how Bitcoin was dropping, take a look at this right here. This is the same analysis I was giving you guys when Bitcoin was dropping originally. So for those of you who didn't actually get to hit that subscribe button, make sure you do, because you're missing out on very valuable content right here. Is that Bitcoin was actually falling from the support level at about $40,000, $50,000, but it didn't have any real support until about $30,000. And the reason for that is that on this chart, this is the only place that we really got some good sideways consolidation along with key support hits. This is actually a little bit easier if I show this to you on the Bitstamp chart right here. Take a look at this. Let me replay this. Bam, just right there. Delete the lines. You can start to get a very good sense for this right here on this chart on the 4-hour time frame, where Bitcoin are really interacting quite nicely with this $30,000 level. We're finding support here very consistently, and we're finding it spread across time as well. So definitely an important level for the market. And of course, that means that it's quite obvious support that we can find on the way back down. There is no other real established area of support on this chart between 42,000, where it's trading at right now on this chart, and 30,000, and that's why we had to drop all the way down. You can identify some other support levels like at $38,000, just around over there, but this hadn't been interacted with over as long of a time frame as the 30k level. Look at this. We were only finding obvious support at this level starting around here in the middle of January, and then at the end of January, and then the beginning days of February. We weren't interacting with it for a long time. Basically the whole time period that Bitcoin interacted with this level lasted about 22 days. But if we consider how long Bitcoin was using this 30k level, I'm disproving myself again. We were establishing resistance here. We were actually using it for a little bit longer. And the other thing I really want you to take note of is we were getting big moves off this level, right? We were consolidating under this level, finding resistance, and we popped really hard to the upside. We came back down to test the support, and we popped really hard to the upside. Again, popping really hard to the upside, continuously getting big explosive price action whenever we're bouncing off this level. But this 38k level, in contrast, it just wasn't that strong. We found resistance here and we dropped a little bit. We found resistance here, and to be fair, we did drop by quite a lot, and again over here. But the next times, barely anything, right? I mean, we're not getting huge price action here. Of course, this led to a big rip. So this was, again, definitely a very important level. But when we compare it to the 30k level, I think that it was just a little bit weaker. And of course, 30k is also a big round psychological number. So if you play the chart forward right now, I was expecting key support at the 38k level. we started to get it. We got some candles opening and closing around this level, but the main place that the price stopped dumping at was at this box. And again, this is the same, like I'm showing you what's going on right here, is this is the same kind of concept with Bitcoin that I'm applying to Shiba. This isn't me being a hater of Shiba, this is me being a realistic analyst right here, which of course a lot of people really struggle to accept, is that these coins right here with this price action, they're going to have to find support regardless of where they've dumped from, and they're going to have to find support at good levels. And again, the primary problem that I'm seeing with Shiba right now is that it doesn't have any good support levels unless it drops really far. This is very obvious when you look at it right here. The only real consolidation for Shiba happens here and much more around over here. This is a very clear example of where there's stronger support down here in this yellow box than there is up here in this yellow box. There's just less history at this level than there is at this level, and to me that's why I have to remain a little bit more bearish than I am bullish right now, because we're not in a bullish trend in this short-term market. Of course, we could just be correcting the uptrend, and that would make a lot of sense, and you've already heard me talk about why that is, but I still think that there's a lot of support down here which has been untapped, and it needs to come down to those levels. Now, the good news about this, and like I told you earlier in this video, I actually traded this coin. I think it's very tradable. Whether I'm trading it to the upside or the downside, I don't really care. I'll definitely buy it if I think that it's going to make me money at the end of the day. And the good news for me and you is that you can trade this coin right here on Bybit. You can actually trade Shiba on Bybit. So if that's something that interests you and you want to be able to take advantage of all this volatility in this market on Shiba right now, you can trade it on Bybit the same way I've been doing, just by following the link in the description down below. There's a lot of pairs right here, a lot of the big ones that I know everybody is interested, but also of course Shiba as well, which is, to be fair, one of the big ones as well. It's definitely been a very profitable coin for me to trade, and I plan on trading it even more in these upcoming days and weeks. So if you do think that that would be interesting, then you can also jump inside Foresights VIP with these steps on screen right now. But if you do want to trade on Bybit, then the thing to keep in mind is that by using my link in the description down below, you stand to get up to $3,500 completely free of charge just by making your first deposit. So that's a gift, a deposit bonus that Bybit is giving you just as a thank you for signing up using my link in the description. So all you got to do is check out that link down below. Signing up takes about 1 minute. Make your first deposit, and you're going to get up to $3.5 grand for free as a bonus, which you can trade with and you can do whatever you like. So definitely check that out. And if you want to be able to watch me trading in real time, it's all going down with these three boxes right here on screen. Click on the first link in the description down below, then click on the @Foreflies button at the bottom of any post inside of Foreflies Gold, and then click on send message to ask me how to join Foreflies VIP. With that though, I really hope you have enjoyed this video. You know what to do. If you have, hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.